So shall we begin by some music? I feel like this is the best start of maybe to instead of introduce with words, let me just play some short music. So here is Bartok Rondo on Slovak folk tunes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Zhu. Hi, everyone. I am Lee Hartman. I'm the manager of events and artist engagement for the Harriman-Jewell series, and we are so thrilled to have you with us today and to hear from our fantastic artist, Zhu Wang, who just played the one of the rondos from Bartok's rondos on Slavic folk tunes. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. And Zhu is here. Well, he's not here in Kansas City right now, but he will be this weekend for his live stream recital on April 17th at 7 p.m. from the 1900 building in Mission Hills, Kansas. And you can view that free live stream at 7 p.m. on Saturday over at www.hjseries.org. Zhu, welcome to this educational event, and we're so happy to have you coming to Kansas City. So why don't you tell us where you are right now and how you came to be there?
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here today with you guys. I'm currently zooming from Rochester, upstate New York. That's where have been living since last March. My girlfriend, she's a pianist at the Eastman School of Music. And so I have been living here with her and the two cats since the pandemic started. And I'm so thrilled to be here and to play a live stream recital this Saturday. Yeah.
So, Zhu, you were mentioning that so you're appearing courtesy of Young Concert Artists, and we have to thank the Annalise Soros Residency Fund of Young Concert Artists for making this event possible. So you were mentioning that this is your first recital for your agency. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you became to be involved with young concert artists and what it's like to prepare a recital?
Okay. Yeah, like you said, this is actually my first solo engagement under Young Concert Artist. I first get to know Young Concert Artists, this agency, because my friend was auditioning for it. That was during my freshman year at the Juilliard School. And I witnessed he went through the whole process, although he didn't get to win eventually. But that was my first contact really to hear about this wonderful organization. And then 2 years passed, and then I remember I was doing my senior year, and I got to meet Randall Gooseby, who who is a great violinist, and he asked me to if we can play together, because he just won the 2018 Young Concert Artist audition at that time, and he was looking for a pianist to play with him for his concerts and debuts, and I didn't know about all sorts of things like coming after that, so I just said sure, why not? I mean, concerts, I'm always welcome. I mean, I'm such a chamber music guy, so I feel like whenever somebody is asking me to play chamber music and collaborate, I always say yes. So I said yes, and then I think that's basically how I started working kind of under young concert artists, but not really into the door yet. And then after that, I got to meet Susan, who is the founder of YCA, and I also got to meet Monica and Vicky, who are the managers also. So yeah, and then that has been great. I mean, I have played for Randall's debuts in New York City and Washington, D.C., and all his concerts. And we feel great playing together. And then, last year, I auditioned for YCA myself. And then lucky enough to be at the organization, to join the family after so many years, that I can finally join it as a solo pianist. So yeah, this is, and then I remember last month Monica called me. She said, there's this Harriman-Jewell series. They are looking for a pianist and they want you to play. And I said, sure. This comes a little bit unexpected. Although I expect to have some real concerts starting from this fall, because that's maybe how the official season begins. But then I guess that's it. How I ended up in here with you guys and by myself. Yeah.
Do we have a lot of Randall connections here? Randall played on our Discovery series. He spoke with our Young Friends donors and members. And actually, Randall's mom is over here in the chat. Hi, Gigi. Good to talk to you. Good to see you over there. Yes. So, Zhu, you have an exciting project coming up with Randall. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Are you allowed to disclose what that is?
Sure. This project is Randall's our first debut album under Decca Classics. It's gonna featuring a lot of African American composers such as Florence Price and William Grant Still. I don't know if you guys have heard of these names, but these are the composers that we have been playing for a long time, basically since I just first started playing together. Like the William Grant Still Suite, this is the piece that we played for his debut recital, and the rest of the program in that CD also includes some Dvorak and also some Gershwin transcriptions. And this album is gonna, I think, come out at the first week of June. So I'm very, very much looking forward to that, because actually the recording process is very, very interesting, because we both of us have never walked into a studio before, like for professional recordings. So this is the first for both of us. And so we felt kind of excited at the beginning, but after first day of the recording, we both felt so exhausted, because it was like 6 hours straight with just repeating a lot of the sing stuff because we want to really make it perfect. So the first day was very, very challenging and kind of tiring, but then we went through it just fine. Well, and then we kind of went back to the studio months later to redo some spots, and now everything is input, and I think just waiting for the release in June.
Well, we're so looking forward to that. Um, that's chamber music playing, and now, but for us on Saturday, you're going to be in Kansas City at 7 p.m. for a live stream recital. Do you prepare a recital program differently from a chamber music program? Is your thought process different at all in that?
Uh, I I can answer you that is different and kind of similar. The difference is I'm I'm just alone on the stage, not to share a stage with the other people. And I think there's a lot more commitment in order to do that. You have to achieve so many responsibilities for the composers by yourself because you have to have that stage presence that I think is very, very important. But I think the similar stuff is it's just basically you have to play good music. You have to communicate by yourself. If I'm alone on the stage, I'm communicating with the audience and I'm communicating with the piano, with the instrument. But if I'm sharing the stage with Randall, we are communicating each other also. And I think that communication with Randall is what we enjoy the most between us, to just find that spontaneous quality while we performing, and so that's also I think very, very interesting to actually have these two paths with me right now, that I have a slow developing solo career, and at the same time I'm playing a lot of concerts with Randall. So this is a very, very I'm still trying to manage that. It's not easy as things get more complicated and more busier, but I'm slowly getting to that, so really looking forward to next year, like how everything unfolds.
Um, you mentioned that you want to, really, you feel that you owe it to the composers to really perform their works well. And so Tim has a question. You're playing Timo Andres's Moving Etudes, which he wrote for you. And Timo is a fantastic pianist himself. So for how do you feel that you have a connection and relationship to living composers?
I I grew up kind of played a lot of contemporary work by my classmates and friends because I have known a lot of composer friends when I was studying Shanghai Conservatory, high school, middle school, and then I didn't have much pianist friends back then. I Because I thought, we are kind of doing the same thing and it's not very interesting to talk to them. But I kind of ended up having a lot of composer friends, and then they compose some new music, and then they have some projects, and they always ask me to do that. So I played a lot of new works from a kind of early age, and this Timo Andres project came to me because I was doing a competition in uh, Music Academy of the West that is in California in the summer of the 2017. And I won the competition, and then part of the prize is to have Timo write a commission work just for me. And he was listening on the jury, and we shared some contacts actually on the way back to the hotel, just after the competition that night. And he was driving me back to the hotel, and we shared some musical thoughts. I feel like we have some similar kind of thoughts. We have the same crash for classical stuff. He's such I think he's a Beethoven lover. I'm also a kind of Mozart and Beethoven classical composers lover. So we have a similar interest. And and I when he gave me this piece, we talked a little bit about how he was thinking when he was writing it. I think the most interesting for me is the second movement of this work. It's called Bewegt. It's a German word. Basically, it means agitated and moving. And he was talking to me that this second movement is kind of like a homage to Robert Schumann. And because Schumann is such a composer, has always anxious emotions and changing moods and of characters. And when he was saying, "Oh, this is kind of a reminiscence of Robert Schumann," I feel suddenly I have such strong feeling of the second movie because I'm always a lover of Schumann's music. I grew up play a lot of Schumann's music and the works such as Kindersinger and Humoresque. So yeah, that's how I really found the connection of this work by just sharing some musical thoughts with him. And now it has been a long time since I last performed it. And I remember last year he was asking me if I can play this work again for concert, a gig, and I couldn't do that because the schedule didn't work out. But I think I need to get back to him now to play for him to ask him for his comments again.
Yeah, well, he'll get to hear it, because we're
Yeah.
live streaming it on Saturday at 7. And again, you can watch that at hjseries.org. It's free. It's going to be fantastic. Zhu, I actually have the Schumann Humoresque queued up, or video of that if you want to play that, or if you have it under your fingers now. I don't want to put you on the spot. I would personally love to hear it. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think people are nodding their heads that they would love to hear you.
I will. Just, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. Beautiful, wonderful. So that was Schumann humoresque, correct? Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good. I'm like, whew. um, um, you've been traveling a lot recently. What's that like as a performer to be traveling during these COVID times and preparing and not knowing what you're going into? What is all the, how is this impacting you as a performer?
I think, I guess, has been very challenging at the first. I remember I basically, since the pandemic started last March, I basically stayed at home for like a few months until summer, August, I think. And I made my first trip to New York City around mid-August for some recordings. And then I remember getting onto that plane for the first time after half a year almost. I almost felt unreal. I almost feel I'm living a dream to going back to the real world after just basically stay at home and do nothing. And I remember the plan was, the whole ride of it felt a little bit like, where am I? And I remember went into the city and I saw so many people on the street and I felt so scared. I felt terrified actually, because my impression of New York City has always been very, very nice and very, very motivated, always very exciting and always, so alive. But then in the summer of it, first time I feel so terrified for the people. I feel like I want to keep the distance. So that was very, very challenging at the first, and then was not very pleasant experience, I have to admit, at the beginning of it. But the next few trips was my auditioning for Young Concert Artist. I think actually this recording you just was playing is I made it right before my preliminary round of YCA. I was kind of running through it at the studio. And so I guess at that point, I kind of got used to I have to wear a mask. I have to keep the distance with other people. And I don't feel that scared anymore. I feel like, because I kind of found the purpose of it. I found the purpose of uh, what I'm doing at this crucial time is to keep playing music, is to keep my goal cleared and focused. And so by that time, my mindset was slightly went back to the right place, I think, because I had something that I was dreaming for to in preparation. And so since the fall, I felt much more safer to get on the plane, to just take the plane and go to New York City. It's not a very long flight. It's just about 1 hour. Actually, it's kind of perfect, having traveling between the New York City and Rochester quite a lot of times until now. And I kind of enjoy this kind of wheels down or wheels up, wheels down, that kind of flight. I don't have to I don't know what to do on the flight if it's too long. And so this is how my mindset changed, is to just find the purpose, to find what I'm doing, what should I do at this time. And if it's, even though maybe every musician, everyone is struggling a little bit, but I slightly found my way back to it through the audition of YCA. And I remember doing the semi-final in the Merkin Hall. After that, I feel so moved and touched myself to actually, that was my first time play for real person, real people. Actually, that is almost a year after the pandemic. And then, yeah, so that was the real first, I feel so touched. Just, I feel so alive on the stage. I never feel that much fulfilled after one performance. So I called my girlfriend right after that. I said, maybe I'm in the final. This time I'm pretty sure I really felt so alive. Yeah.
You mentioned and that's That's so beautiful what you just said. You mentioned in your little video package with the Clara Haskell competition that you consider yourself introspective, and I think that that comes across in what you just said there. That um, do you feel that some of the composers that you're playing on your program are also introspective composers, or do you find some of them to be extroverted, or is there a mix?
I I remember that interview was two years ago, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe I grew up always like a shy boy. I think introspective is too complicated as a word. I think I was had just been shy, and now I'm talkative. I remember because I think to talk about the music of the program, I have to start a little bit just to share of my kind of grew up story, because I think this is very important. How I ended up playing this music. I remember when I first started playing piano, my parents kind of they asked me, "Oh, go downstairs and find your friends at the playground, and you just hang out with them." And I remember every time when I walked downstairs, and I saw them already playing basketball, and they're having a lot of fun, and I always went back up after about 5 minutes, and said to them, well, I just want to stay at home and play my few notes at the bench. And after a few tries, they said, okay, you just do whatever you want to do. I mean, maybe my love for piano wasn't as strong as now, but I think I had always been a quite of shy, introspective, in other words. Just I kind of I want to be by myself. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but that's how I really first got up to play piano. It's just I can just sit on the bench for for quite a long time, longer than my my friends, and get focused. And then I grew up a little bit different path. I think my colleagues among high school, they were playing a lot of Liszt etudes, Chopin etudes, a lot of virtuosic show-off pieces. But my interest had always been around Schumann, Robert Schubert, Mozart, Chopin, and all these great composers that I always draw into the non-virtuosic side of their music. And I think why at this age of I'm kind of a little bit older than back then, and I was summarizing a little bit why I love all these composers, because I think they all share some qualities. I think it's very, very touching to me. Is they're all very open-minded, open-minded in case of their music style, and they're all very sincere. Their music and their personality is always sincere, and and always just in the most straight and the most touching way. And I think the third quality is also very important among them is reflective, always reflective. I found reflective to play their music. I found I'm reflecting a lot just to listen to their music. So that's why I think always by playing these composers, I grew up as a person. I also learned things, as a person to get my hands on this great music. So and so get back to the question of program. Um, I think most of the music in this program is kind of touching and love-centered music, and also a little bit on the introspective side. And a lot of the pieces I think is not very often heard. Maybe there are composers that quite well, like Bach, Mozart, Liszt, and Richard Strauss. But the pieces that I chose is not most popular ones. Like the first piece I'm starting of the recital is Bach 4-Duets. I think it's a hidden gems of Bach. I first heard this piece when I was found the recording of Angela Hewitt. I don't know if you guys know this name. She's quite a Bach specialist. And when I first listened to the beginning of the first one, I found it is so haunting and is so melancholy, and that purity of just have two voices played by two hands is simply genius. I mean, like it's kind of like a two-part invention, but when just went to a much level, higher artistic level, and so that's why I chose this piece for my master's audition and for my audition at Curtis. I started my audition with the first movement of Bach, because I think um, it's such a chromatic, also a kind of haunting work to start a program, and it's very interesting. So, and things like, the list, also the Sposa Lisio, um, is a very interesting work, because Franz Liszt wrote so many pieces when he was on the road, actually, when he was traveling around Europe, and he wrote this work when he was at Italy, with his wife at that time, and then he was looking at the painting of Raphael Sanzio. I don't know if you guys know this name. He was a great Italian painter, Renaissance. He was like kind of at the same level with Michelangelo. And so he was very inspired by it, by the purity of the music. The painting is very symmetrical. Is the marriage of the virgin, so to say. So like the couple is in the center of it, and the temple is also centered in the painting. So I think it's a very beautiful painting, and there's so much to say in the simplicity, just in the simplicity of it. And so that's why I also chose this music. It's very emotional, and it doesn't have a lot of notes. Like all the you might think of Liszt, to have a million notes and a million cadences, but this piece is not. It's just pure music from the heart. So this is, are the two examples from the program, and I can went on and went on of this program, because, but I want to, I don't want to give too much yet.
There is one piece I'd like you to talk about. Could you talk about the colorful clouds chasing the moon? Could you talk a little bit about that piece that you're going to be performing?
Sure. I think that piece is, I chose that work because I want to show a little bit my identity as a Chinese musician. As a kid that grew up in China and in Shanghai, with all the Chinese culture around me, I chose this work because I remember my uncle, he said to me, no matter how long you stay in US, you have to always remember where you come from. You have to always remember where you are coming from. And I have been in the States now almost 6 years now, and I haven't been back home for 2 years, over 2 years actually. And when I started thinking maybe I should put some Chinese music, and this piece suddenly came to my head. It's a piece that I know for a long time. It's a piece that all the Chinese piano kids that they play. It's not very hard. It's kind of in the middle level, like in the level of hardness, but it's a very beautiful piece. Like from the very title of it, right? The colorful clouds chasing the moon, sort of already give you a visual picture of the purity. It's like kind of like the Debussy Clarity Moon, but it's like Chinese version of it. Like it's have that kind of impressionist, have that kind of very light-hearted. So I think it will be a very interesting piece after the Liszt, because Liszt is very emotional and very melancholy and nostalgic. But this piece, I think, will just have such nice transition. Yeah. And I put this music because I simply a little bit homesick these days, and I want to kind of be remembering that side of me. Yeah.
I think everyone's a little homesick now. They're like, I know personally, I haven't been able to see my family for a year, and I can't even imagine being an ocean away from mine like you are. So you'll get home soon. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit about your start on the piano? So you started in China at age 5. Can you talk about who your first teacher was and how you got started?
I started at the age of 5 because basically because my grandfather. My grandfather, he is a high school music teacher. He is he is a person that he basically knows a little bit about every instrument, like from Chinese instrument to piano to violin to saxophone. I think he's a great saxophonist actually. So every time my parents show me to his apartment, I sort of have this always he's kind of playing some music in the apartment. I always hear some music, some tune when we visited him, and he's a very also very vivid community musician. Like he do a lot of chorale conducting. He organized even some musical event like I don't know, like some chamber music in the community. So I think he's a very big influencer for me to start playing piano. And how I really started is he had like an electronic keyboard, like a not really a full scale. It's like a half scale, like only this long, and he just let me play with it a little bit at the beginning. And of course, I didn't know what was it. I thought it's a toy, like every other kid would think of. And to be honest, I don't know how he could tell that I have a talent or something. I don't know. I don't know. And then he suddenly he told my parents, Drew, maybe he has some talents. And by this day, I still know what the talent what it was. Maybe he lived such a long time, and he can tell from just playing a few notes on the piano. I honestly have no answer to that, but or basically he just wanted me to play, and he just lied to my parents that I actually had the talent. But uh, but I remember at my birthday of 50 years old, he bought me an upright, like a Chinese made piano. So it's a very as my birthday gift kind of. And the most strong impression of that day is actually witnessing three strong guys moving the piano through the stairs, and for me it was such a and of course I have witnessed so many piano moving until now, but that first moving of the piano was the strongest impression on my head. Now is to see them sweating and to move that big toy. And maybe it's that kind of left some kind of impression on me, and that kind of left a kind of, oh, maybe this time is more serious than that electronic keyboard or something. So that's basically how I started, and my parents were very committed from invested from the very beginning of it. They were always trying to find me the best teacher available from the city that we were living in to the state, to the province. A few years later, we found the best teacher in the province, and then when I was I remember at the age 12, I was doing a competition in Hong Kong, and I was still like a kid that basically didn't know anything music related. I was just trying to manage both elementary school and also piano playing. I think this is happens to a lot of Asian kids. They have so many interests, so many hobbies, so many classes they have to take off campus. And I was doing that competition in Hong Kong, and I didn't do well. I because I was so nervous. I have never really been out of the state to do any big competition, and then but somehow a professor at the Shanghai Conservatory, he was sitting in the jury, and he came to me and my parents after the awarding ceremony. After in the he came to us in the big lobby of the concert hall. I don't know how he could find us, basically, to be honest. So, but it's a very big coincidence that he come to us. and he introduced himself, and he wanted me to study with him. And that the second most precious moments came to life just in that moment. My mom was crying suddenly. All of a sudden, she was crying, and again, I was like, "What's happening?" I was like, "Oh, I again, I." So this moment's happened to my life, and I'm always the one who doesn't understand what is happening to me until maybe a few years later, until I reflect just last week. Oh, maybe that is the moment that really changed everything. So my mom was crying. Maybe she realized what that means to me and to all of us. And then so we basically spent 2 months in Shanghai and preparing for the audition for the very competitive music middle high school of Shanghai Conservatory audition. It's like I don't think it's easier than a competition, so to say. It's like a Chinese Curtis audition. But then somehow I was really into that. I had nothing to do and basically just to practice on a very shitty piano in Shanghai. We rented an apartment in a very small apartment, and then I made it to the very few students of it, and then yeah, and I studied there for 7 years until I came to the States. So just to in summarize, I think there are these 2 or 3 important moments that really changed everything, but I'm always unaware of what that means to me until few years down the road, and I realize how lucky I am to have these people that basically made me into this path, and I sort of just went with the flow, and here I am, yeah, still walking down this road. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you went to basically the Chinese Curtis, right? But
Yeah.
you're actually going to the American Curtis now, right? But only kinda, right? Because you got accepted during COVID. Can you talk about how attending school, especially at a conservatory level, how that works with you right now? What type of
Uh,
technologies you're using and things like that?
yes. Basically, I don't have a lot of classes to take at Curtis because I'm doing a kind of like an artist diploma postgraduate. It's not like a bachelor. You have to take so many academic courses like liberal arts and music history. I have done that at Juilliard. And I chose to go to Curtis because I wanted to find me a quiet environment, a less crowded, because I stayed in Shanghai for 7 years, and I went to New York City straight for another 4 years. So it has been over a decade, in metropolitan area. And again, like I said, I feel like I'm such an introspective, shy person, and I get older, I kind of become more clear of where I want to live when I have a choice. So I didn't do masters at Juilliard. I chose to audition for the AD program at Curtis in Philadelphia because I always loved Philadelphia. I have a few friends did bachelor at Curtis, and when I visited them, I was so amazed by just the eloquence quality and such a deep culture in the city. I think has the longest history, right? The city has the longest history in US, and I always got so amazed by that side of it. So yeah, and then I remember my audition was right before the shutdown. I was very very lucky because a few days later they canceled the string audition. They canceled all the violin, cello, viola audition at Curtis because of the pandemic. I remember few that I auditioned. I remember my audition date was like March 7th, and few days later, Juilliard canceled every classes. Juilliard canceled everything for the rest of the semester. Just 2 days later, and and 3 days later, I was on the train to Rochester. So just how everything went from normal to suddenly shut down and it's just like, and for me, I feel less impacted because I'm a Chinese, and as you all know, that COVID, first found in Wuhan in China, and I was very alert always since I remember January, December. I remember that first came out. So I think me and a few Chinese friends at Juilliard, we were the first few to wear a mask. Uh, we even made a trip to Norway, to Bergen. I did like a festival right around February, and so everything was very very normal except we were the only few Chinese in the train who were wearing masks. Like I remember in the train to airport, and some people was kind of making the jokes on us. They were saying, let me take a picture of you guys, and he actually sent me that picture later. And I think he didn't mean anything harmful, or I think he was just feel correct by the fact that we are very careful of the pandemic when it hasn't really arrived in the US. So yeah, that's basically how everything just changed like overnight, basically. And now everything is slowly going back, and now we have been doing online lessons for almost a year now. So I think we are, as a musician, of course, we want to have in-person experiences. We want to have lesson in person. We want to play concerts in person. We want to play chamber music in person. All these things really should happen with people in the room, not just by oneself. And so yeah, but now everything is kind of slowly getting back to normal. Me and Randall, I think we just played our second in-person concert in Dallas. We played our first in-person concert in Florida, Palm Beach, 2 weeks ago, and now we just finished another one in Dallas. So so we were feeling very so the energy of it was so different when you really went on stage and received the audience enthusiasm. That is the moment that oh, this is how it feels like. This is it. This is the magic of live concert. This is why we shouldn't do any more virtual. Although I think they're also virtual concert is better than nothing, but there's still something that is a little bit lacking in the magic of it. Yeah.
Well, Zhu, we're just about out of time, and we're so looking forward to having you in Kansas City performing. So you're coming to Kansas City. You're going to be doing a free live stream recital for the Harriman-Jewell series on Saturday, April 17th. That'll air at 7 p.m. and you can watch that at hjseries.org. Sadly, like you say, it's going to be a virtual experience, but you know what? Your artistry and the music that you make is definitely going to shine through, and our audiences are going to love it. They're going to love you. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And we can't wait to see you in a couple days for some barbecue and some music in Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you all very much. To spending time with me. Please bear with my English. But I really prefer to communicate with my music. But this was also my first time really doing a Zoom education event. So I was very nervous, before that. But I think you guys really helped me went through it. So thank you all very, very, very much, and I look forward to see you all on Saturday.
Thank you, Zhu. Thank you, everyone. Again, that's going to be Saturday, April 17th at 7 p.m. Zhu, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all. Bye.